Angel with FleeceFun.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make the Halloween hat pack, perfect for trick-or-treating in. For this project you will need the following items. You'll need the free PDF pattern printed up from FleeceFun.com. To get to the pattern, go to FleeceFun.com, find the hats, click on the Halloween hat pack and select the size that you want. Once you have that, you will also need the following: 1/3 yard of fleece, 1/8 yard of contrasting materials for pieces. You might need up to 2 colors, and honestly I usually just use fleece scraps for these because they are smaller pieces. You'll also need scissors. Alright, once you have all those things, it's time to get started. Now because the Halloween hat pack comes with so much variety, I'm just going to kind of break it down into sections for you. The truth of the matter is the hat itself is the same pattern. It's just been modified to suit with whatever we're adding to it. So I'm going to show you how to make the individual pieces and then how to assemble the hat at the end. The first pieces we're going to start with are the cat and the bear hat pieces. These ears are pretty much assembled the same way and I'm going to walk you through it. Be sure to cut out your hat pattern. You'll need 2 pieces of that, and then you'll need 2 pieces of each ear piece, the outer ear and the inner ear piece. And it doesn't matter, it's the same way whether it's a bear or a cat. Then you're going to pin the ears. Because the inner part of the ear is kind of an inset, it's going to be an interesting way of pinning it. It's a little bit different. What you're going to do is you're going to pin it and line it up with the very bottom of the outer edge piece. Okay, so it's going to line up there, put a pin there. Then here's how you're going to make it pin, and it's going to make kind of a bubble in the back. You're going to line up the top, pin it, and it's going to start to kind of bubble out. Pin the sides, line them up, pin them, and then half it, pin those sides, half it again and pin those. So you'll have a lot of pins and the back will be a little bubbled, and it'll all just kind of line up like that, and that's with either ear. Once you've done that, you're going to sew using a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around that ear. Okay, then you're going to flip the ear right side out. If you're using a bear ear, you can top stitch a little crease onto the ear if you desire. For the cat ears, what I recommend is taking the outer sides and then folding them in so they meet in the middle, and then basting that down so it folds there and it stays there to make kind of the curled cat ear. Once you've done that, it's time to place the ears in the hat. What you're going to do is you're going to take your 2 hat pieces and they're going to be right sides together, and basically your ears are going to be sandwiched in. So what you're going to do is you're going to place the ears facing in onto the hat exactly where you want it, and you want them kind of closer to the outer point that you can see on the pattern piece. You're going to place them there, and you're going to place them pointing into the hat. Now, if you are worried about stitching through so many layers of fleece, you can just basically baste it down with your machine now so you know they'll stay in place, or you can just pin it really well and then pin the other pattern piece on top of it. So, making them sandwiched in between the 2 hat pieces, right sides together, you're going to sew the outside edge, then you're going to turn it so that V is shut, sew under your brim, and there you go. You have your bear and your cat ears. Alright, next hat. For the dinosaur/dragon hat and for the Viking hat, it's pretty much also the same process. So we're going to group these together. Again, you're going to cut out all the pattern pieces you want. To get the exact dinosaur look or dragon look you're looking for, lay the pattern pieces on the pattern so you can see how many you'll need exactly for the size of hat. It just varies on how much you want, how many scales, how many plates you want. So you get to decide that one. You get to design it. Once you have all the great pieces cut out, it's time to make the horns or the dragon plates. And what you're going to do is using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, sew each of those all the way around, leaving the bottom open for turning. And you can see what I'm talking about in the pattern example. Once you've sewn each of those, you're going to trim the tops so you get a nice point, and you're going to flip it right side out. Now, if you want to give it a more 3-dimensional look, I highly recommend putting a little bit of batting or stuffing in there. You can even use fleece scraps just to make it stand up a little bit better. It's absolutely necessary on the Viking horns in order to do that, but it's kind of optional on the dragon horns if you want that or not. Now, when you do stuff it, make sure you leave a finger's width at the bottom because you're going to need that to be able to sew your seam allowance later. So make sure you have a finger's width open at the bottom. All right, once you've done that, it's time to take them and add them to the hat. So again, they're going to be facing in, place them where you want them, and especially with pieces that are stuffed, you really want to pre-sew those down first. So before you sandwich them between the two, what you're going to do is you're going to just sew it to the right side along the top with a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Sew those down so those will stay in place nicely. Then place the other pattern piece on top, pin it, sew the side seams, turn it, sew the V shut. All right, there's your dinosaur and Viking hat. Oh, and also be sure to sew the brim. All right, the pumpkin and apple hat. Now, for the leaves, we're not going to stuff them, we're just going to leave them flat, so you're just going to cut them out really nicely, and that's all you have to do for the leaves, nothing else. Set those aside. For the stem, what you're going to do is placing right sides together and leaving the bottom open, you're going to sew using a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around. You're going to trim it, turn it right side out, and then again, I like to use a little bit of batting, but make sure there's a finger's width at the bottom so you can have it closed and sew it nicely. Now with the pumpkin and apple hat, it's a little bit different. What you're going to do is take your 2 hat pieces and you're going to sew the side seams first. Then when you turn it to make that V to sew it shut, you're going to place the stem pointing down into the hat along with the leaves, or you can hand stitch leaves on afterwards if you choose to. And then you're going to sew that stem in with that last seam at the top, that last V that you're sewing. All right, with all of the hats, you're almost done. All you need to do is turn the brim under 1/2 inch to 1 inch, and it can vary depending on the person's head. And using a zigzag stitch, so right along the edge of the cloth to make your brim. And then that's it. For more great patterns and tutorials that are absolutely free, please visit my website, fleecefun.com. We also have a Red Riding Hood cape, perfect for going to grandmother's house in. We also have a mini top hat, very cute, very chic, very in. Have a great day, and remember, velvet is pretentious, fleece is fun.